Can you share how mentorship influenced your early career decisions and your professional growth?
One was pure mentorship, like kind of having that someone who's like walking the path with
Yeah,
you,
right.
that like that day-to-day job, that camaraderie, that kind of perspective. Yeah, at this point, you're not even like being like, what's my career 5 years from now? It's like, how's my tomorrow looking like? How's my next week looking like? And, having this person like walk with you kind of gave, hey, someone's doing these tasks with me. They're making similar decisions. And it's not like you by yourself. You're learning together, you're supporting each other, and
Right.
like,
Behind every resilient water system is an engineer, and behind every great engineer is someone who helped guide them along the way. In a profession shaped by technical complexity, regulatory demands, and real world consequences, mentorship can be the difference between simply doing the work and truly mastering it. In this episode, I speak with Soraya Azahari, PE, Senior Engineer at Parametrix, about her journey into water engineering and the mentors who shaped her along the way. We explore the difference between career and technical mentors, the value of learning from construction professionals to design more constructible solutions, and what it means to transition from being mentored to becoming a mentor yourself. If you're a civil engineer looking to grow in your career or a firm leader aiming to build stronger teams and better project outcomes, this conversation will offer practical insights on how mentorship can elevate both individuals and organizations. Before we jump in, I want to tell you about our AEC PM Connect, the premier event series for AEC leaders and project managers looking to elevate team performance, lead with purpose, and deliver measurable results. Across multiple locations each year, you'll explore real-world strategies for project delivery, leadership, and technology and construction management. Our next event takes place in New Jersey in June and Kansas City in October. You can learn more and register at aecpmconnect.com. I'm your host, James Taylor, and this is the Civil Engineering Podcast, the industry's leading show for civil engineering professionals, ranked as the #1 civil engineering podcast by FeedSpot. It's now time for our civil engineering conversation of the week with Soraya Azahari, PE. Soraya, welcome to the Civil Engineering Podcast.
thanks for having me.
Soraya, can you walk us through your career background and how you developed your focus in water engineering?
So I graduated from University of Delaware in
Go
2010.
UD! Hey, I'm from University of Delaware too. That's fantastic. Two blue hens
we're
here on the podcast today.
we're blue engineers, right?
Exactly. That's great.
So unfortunately, though, I graduated during the recession, so it was a really tough time to find a job. I was under a government scholarship, so I had to go back to Malaysia for mandatory service. And even going back, I was like, well, I should get a job with the civil service, and they couldn't place me. There were no open positions. So, like the rest of my graduating class, most of us ended up going to grad school. And you were just like, well, I'll do this, right? So in the meantime, like my research was in palm oil processing plants, treating the effluent from those sites. And it was kind of like my first entry into treatment, to wastewater treatment. And Malaysia's huge in oil and gas industry. And I thought I was going to end up in oil and gas. And I ended up kind of getting really focused on environmental engineering, wastewater engineering, and did some odd jobs as a technical writer, field engineer, and like air pollution control, like just a gamut of things. And like I eventually moved back to the US. And that's when I started like looking into jobs, getting into consulting. And it was in Baltimore, Maryland. I was at the firm there.
Okay.
And like, some of my friends they were saying they need entry level engineers. They have this huge job in Baltimore, design project, it's a greenfield headworks wastewater treatment plant. And it's that opportunity doesn't come all the time. So they really needed people. They needed boots on the ground to just start working on things. And during my time there, it was just like this overload of knowledge that you just had to like learn and pick up. And it wasn't anything that I was used to. It was just like suddenly you're thrusted into plans,
Yeah.
specs, like design, drafting, and you're figuring it out as you go. And that was kind of like my big like surge of just like, oh, this is what consulting is about. Like this is what I'm doing. And at the time, like I just felt like you're just doing so many things at once. You're like figuring out process mechanical work, and that's kind of what I like fell into, is process mechanical engineering. And like you're figuring out how this interacts with other disciplines, with structural engineers, with geotechs, with electrical engineers. You're like starting being like a jack of all trades a little
Yeah.
bit. You're picking up all these different like industries and learning at the same time. And I kind of really liked it and just kind of got real interested in all these different things. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am right now. Like, I think it's just like building up on that knowledge. And it was a lot of learning on the job. It was a lot of like just figuring things out, like getting guidance, hoping for the best. And like, to be honest, like it was just like nothing like what we learned at school, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. Um, but I think that kind of goes into it, like, where I was just really fortunate to have a lot of people that I could, like, work with, a lot of mentors and peers at the time that, like, really brought me into, like, what is water, wastewater infrastructure design? Like, what's needed to learn proper, like, equipment selection? Like, what is optimization, processes, like, and how they all, like, interact with each other. And, like, I just I don't know, you steel yourself, like, you kind of prepare yourself to learn, and then that was, like, a tough time, and then you kind of realize, "Oh, this is so important that I need mentorship at all different levels so that my day is better and, like, I could actually do this job."
You shared a little bit about mentorship, right? Can you share how mentorship influenced your early career decisions and your professional growth?
So I'll just be a little vulnerable here, like, entering the industry, like, I struggle so much with imposter syndrome, like, feeling super anxious, and I just felt like I wasn't cut out to do the job, and, like, all those, like, latent feelings, and you kind of are just like, "How do I do this?" Like,
Sure.
how do I continue? And, like, I think mentorship was such a huge part to kind of build that confidence. So, like, I realized, and it wasn't just, like, immediately knowing what kind of mentorship I needed, but, like, over time, I realized there were kind of, like, 3 big types of, like, mentorship that was crucial for my growth as, like, an early career engineer. Like, one was pure mentorship, like, kind of having that someone who's, like, walking the path with
Yeah,
you,
right.
that like, that day-to-day job, that camaraderie, that kind of perspective. Yeah, at this point, you're not even, like, being like, "What's my career 5 years from now?" It's like, "How's my tomorrow looking like? How's my next week looking like?" And, having this person, like, walk with you kind of gave that sounding board, kind of like a confidant so that you can kind of, "Hey, someone's doing these tasks with me. They're making similar decisions." And, it's not like you by yourself. You're learning together, you're supporting each other, and,
Right.
like, that trust that you build, like, that is, like, that strong
You're in
foundation.
it together, right? And there's not there, just like in life, right? You can't do life by yourself, and in the industry, you need that person beside you, and it sounds like you have a great experience with that.
For sure. And, like, that's just something that, like, you start you start your job and you're like, "Oh, so and so is 2 years in," and you're like, "Whoa, they know so much already." And then you get to know them, and then you're like, "Oh, wait, we're both figuring this out as we go."
Yeah.
So, that was super, super helpful for me. Like, so I had a lot of peers that kind of, I mean, to this day, they're, like, some of my closest friends. And then the other type of mentorship that I think this just is, like, a given. Like, we are in such a technical field that having a technical mentor is critical.
Okay.
Like, it's, that's kind of our career development, is that knowledge base, and, like, everything that we need to know is, like, you're learning at an exponential rate for design, for construction, for, you know, that knowledge doesn't just pop up, like,
Right.
unfortunately. So, I was super fortunate that I had a technical mentor that I could, like, look up to, really learn from. And, like, a lot of his, like, experience and his knowledge that he shared me, like, from his experience in the industry, really gave that coaching, that direct feedback, like, made sure I grew and grew the skills, not just, like, random skills, but specific skills to do the job. And, like, I you're kind of like, I don't know, everyone says, like, "Oh, I love feedback." Whenever you get feedback, you're all just like, "Oh, that feels hard
Yep.
to take." But the way that he presented everything was just so clear. Um, like, that getting that clear direction, he, like, trained me, like, in field work, office engineering, like, it just, like, I really felt like I was just, like, in school again, in a way. But you're also just, like, real life application. So, um I mean, that's just when you start the ins and outs, like, what's a good deliverable? What is acceptable? What's best practice? And, like, I think the most special thing that he did for me was kind of encourage me to like, even if I don't know something, like just take a stab, think through, this is what I think it should be. This is my justification on how I got here. Even if it's wrong, he just wants to see how you thought through it. And that's something that at first I was like, well, if I don't know, I don't know. Like, and you don't say anything, but he built that confidence. And like, even to this day, like, I'm so thankful for that because it just makes you have that critical thinking process. And like, I don't know, finding those mentors in like a discipline you are not familiar with is like critical for us. And I don't know, I just feel like I wouldn't be able to do that without having that like solid technical mentor. And then the third mentor that I realized was like super, super important to me was like a career mentor, like kind of like
Okay. Yeah.
advancing, where you see yourself and like what am I doing 5 years from now? Like, what is the trajectory of this career? Like, what is my role here? Like, and, when you're starting, like, as an engineer one, a design engineer, you're just kind of doing the work sometimes. And, like, the thought of, like, where is the next step from here? Where do I go after this? Like, is it just doing this every day? Sometimes you're just so locked in, right? And,
Yeah.
um, I had the head of my division was just super, super, like, he was just an awesome champion. Like, he was your advocate, and he had your back, and, like, he connected you with people in the industry. He encouraged you to just kind of, like, step out of just, like, doing all the time to just being like, "Hey, this is what you can grow into," and, like, "This is your early stage, but think about your next stage," and, like, it became more of, like, the instead of just, like, the task at hand, it's like, let's talk about clients, like, being client steward, being what is your role in the industry? And, like, I finally realized, like, "Hey, this isn't everything, like, there's more to this," and, like, I don't know, I think I benefited a lot from, like, him advocating, introduced me to, like, the network of other engineers, and, like, I don't know, I think, like, finally you could kind of, like, envision what your trajectory
Yeah.
is, and big picture wise, so, yeah, those are the 3 mentors that, like, had, like, significant impact on how I do things.
Yeah, you talk about imposter syndrome right off the bat, and I think, there's a lot of people that are probably in the same shoes as you are, right? You come out of college, you think, you're like, "What am I doing here?" Like, "Oh my goodness, I'm in this job," and you're like, or even being promoted, right? You're as engineers, we're trained technically, and you talk a little bit about that with your career mentor, but, you're trained technically, you're learning technically, and then all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, great, here's project management role, or here's a business development role," or whatever that might be, and it's like, whoa, what am I doing here? And I think you stress the importance there about having those mentors are the way that you're able to bridge that gap of knowledge and help you and walk you through different things. How you mentioned a little bit about the career, you talked about the three, the peer, the career, and the technical mentors. Talk a little bit about the importance of having both a career mentor and a technical mentor and why you need both of those.
So, our industry, our day to day is rooted in technical
Right.
knowledge, and having that technical understanding under your belt as like a core foundation is, like, critical. Like, I think I can't stress enough, like technical competence. It's like, what should I say the word? Pertinent.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, at all levels of a project, and, like, when you are in your early stages, that's, like, the focus. You hone that skill, you become good at that skill, and, like, obviously, as you progress along and you move to, like, different roles, like discipline lead, PM, like, your level of engagement technically changes. But that technical capability is always necessary in consulting, and I think finding that technical mentor who can really focus you, get you on the right foot is crucial, and, like, I feel like you always hear, and I'm sure you hearing this a lot, "Don't reinvent the wheel,"
Yep.
right? So, like, finding that resource that will kind of, like, take your hand and be like, "This is a path we need to walk together, like, don't stray," like, like but he encourages you to be your own person, grow technically, but having that kind of, like, bounds of, like, this is at least baseline knowledge I need to know so that you can be, like, competent, so you can have that skill, so you could excel. But then you have career mentors that, like, they give you that bigger picture and provide like the direction almost, like kind of like
Yeah.
where do I go? Like what's my skill set? Like where can I possibly take you? And like, okay, if you're gonna do this path, like is it in alignment like with your capabilities, with like your personality, which personality I think plays a lot into it.
Or even where
And
your
then
gaps are too, right? Like,
Mhm.
what areas you need to grow in to be able to get to that point.
Exactly. And like your potential. Like you said, like what do I need to grow? And like so I think, this career mentor kind of like I think I mentioned before, like it makes you envision where you see yourself in the future and that trajectory and like what steps you need to get
Yeah.
there. But like why do you need both? Like sometimes a mentor can serve two roles, right? They can be a technical and a career mentor. That's awesome if you find that one person,
Right.
but they serve different purposes. And I think what I've kind of figured out, at least for myself, like technical mentor, like kind of focuses on like the doing, like, your daily work, your tasks, and like your design expectations. And like they give you those tools, like not like, or even some introduce you to a software cloud at your disposal. And like, I think having like a career mentor, they kind of tell you like why and where are you going? Like when I think that just like really makes you think about like how you want to navigate your career growth and like what relationships you want to build, like what kind of leadership skills you want to have, and like what connections do you want to build. So I think just they offer different
Right.
perspectives of the
Yeah.
industry. So I think that's kind of how I feel about having two different kinds of
Yeah,
resources.
I love that aspect of it, right? And again, just as much as you're trying to identify your strengths, right? You and areas for improvement, in the same regard of like, okay, I know this person's really good technically, but maybe not the best future focused looking person. And sometimes you need to have those two different areas in your life, and I think that's fantastic. You were talking about the technical area, and can you talk a little bit about how mentorship from construction professionals has improved the constructability of your designs?
Oh, 100%. I feel like I should dole out a list of thank yous for my contractor mentors that I've like gained over the years. And your projects and design, almost all of them go to construction, right? Like so
You
when
hope,
you're
right?
no, you hope so badly they
Yes.
go well. So I was fortunate enough to like work with a bunch of contractors, like just at the time, like being a field engineer or just kind of like going to site visits regularly, and you kind of see your designs come to life. And like I think when you do see it come to life, you kind of realize, oh, those are some actual issues that I'm noticing. Like these are some real world constraints that you see of like what's actually possible, what's actually constructible, like, and then you start applying those to like the forefront when you're doing design. But you don't just see it happening. A contractor will point it out to you
Yeah.
and, give you those lessons learned. But like now, these days, like to this day, I still reach out to my contractor mentors, my contractor buddies at this point, and just run an idea through them. Be like, does this make sense? Is like doing that sanity check and be like, is this feasible? Is this constructible? Is this best practice when application wise, like when you're actually installing this, when you're considering like the economy of like some of the things that we don't see that
Right.
vendors and contractors go through. And I think like at the end of the day, like engaging with a contractor type mentor during design, during just your free time, like it only like it elevates your product and your deliverable. It elevates how you think about things. And at the end of the day, you give your client your best option out there. And like I think you have your engineers like technical considerations, but then you also have to like factor in like real world inspiration application, and having that person who could take you under your wing. I have one of my contractor mentors really took me under his wing, walked me through commissioning, startup, like all those things that
Yeah.
I couldn't be as exposed to. And I think it made me like a stronger design engineer when you can really critically think on how something is actually put together and installed.
I love that. And as you're going through your career, there's a point where things start to pivot. You obviously still need we all still need mentors in our lives, all the way through. Even as you get to the end of your career, you still need those mentors in your life. But at what point did you realize you were transitioning from being mentored to also becoming a mentor yourself?
Oh, that was a moment that dawned on me for sure. Like, I think the most, like, clear transition was when I was assigned as a supervisor. At that point, you start taking direct reports
Yeah.
who are, like, entry-level engineers, and I have, some direct reports that are, like, mid-level engineers, but that's kind of like the shift you felt, that it was just kind of like, "Oh, now I'm offering support and guidance and direction and goal setting for someone else." Like, I'm preparing them for, like, what they envision as success. So, that worked like the big, like, "Oh, this is different." Like, um, but even before that, you start noticing it bit by bit in your career as you progress along from, like, design engineer to project engineer, where you're now tasking someone else to help on things. You're starting kind of delegate work, and you used to be the person doing design drafting, and now you're kind of guiding someone for your expectations on design and drafting. So I think that was like the actual feel of like, my role is shifting, and I'm now here as a mentor or as like a peer mentor, mainly at that point before you start going further along in your career. But I don't know, I just feel like you start also the conversations shift a little bit where folks engage you with like, "Hey, let's talk about work-life
Yeah.
balance and like what technical skills do I need to grow? Like where do you what were you doing a couple years ago and how did you feel about this?" So I think it was like kind of like a natural organic shift, like almost like a baton pass
Yeah.
a bit. But yeah, I think the key thing I'm realizing now, it's just kind of like you know, when you go from like mentee to mentor back and forth, like you're sharing that experience and you're so full of experience at that
Yes.
point. You want to share it with them, but like it's truly so that they can like they can curate their own growth
Yep.
and like what works best for them. Like you're not telling them you need to do this, this is
Right.
this.
You're
It's
not
like,
creating a clone of yourself.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're just like, this is what worked for me. Like I hope, you find success in what you decide is success for you.
Yeah, I heard it said once, that if you're looking around and you're trying to find who's gonna help this person, it's probably you, right? Like, you get to that stage in your career where you're looking around and you're saying, "How come no one's helping these entry level people?" Well, that's probably your role at that point in time, and being that mentor, and so, jump in when you can. Even once you're 1 year out of school, realistically, you have that whole year that you've been working on stuff and gaining that experience that you can provide, even if that's that peer mentor that you were talking about for someone that maybe has just graduated. I think that's all extremely great points that you made there. So last year, you were selected as the Parametrix Employee Owner of the Year, and this is based on nominations from your peers, many of whom you served as a mentor to. What does this honor mean to you, and how does has it impacted your career?
You see how, like, uncomfortable I
Yes,
got?
engineer. We don't like recognition. Yes, go ahead.
It was I will say it was, like, a massive surprise. It was huge, huge honor to get nominated, and, like, never thought I was gonna be nominated, first of all, and, like, the second part of it was just reading the nominations, and they do a little write-up about you, and it was, like, these wonderful things that people were sharing that, like, I didn't even realize that was kind of the impact that they got, I guess, from my interactions with them. So it was kind of like this feeling of shock, of gratitude, and like I'll be the first to tell you, like I am not perfect. I over focus on my should I say this? My perceived shortcomings. That's
Okay,
something my therapist and
sure.
I work on a lot.
Yes, yes.
But it's like it was so not anticipated and like used to be, like, nominated, but there were so many other amazing candidates, so it's just, like, for me, like, to see that and, like, have that happen meant so much, and, like, the impact on my career, I take a lot of joy, like, from making connections with people and, like, doing whatever I can to help someone, whether it's professional or personal. Like I just like love that bond that you form. Um, and like to see that it made an impact and like my true intentions of like growth and mentorship reached those that I like interacted with. So I just felt like it's just like a warm feeling, I guess, from like career wise. Like I felt like I wanted to stay super close to like my core belief on like what it is, like, empathizing with people, being honest, like establishing trust, which is really important for me. And like, knowing that there's like life outside of work for engineers, but also there's a character outside of us. And like, I wanted to like continue being that resource for people. And like, I don't know, getting that award, like, it just like inspired me to keep like improving myself and like see more impacts that I can do to help grow and help others grow.
When you're mentoring junior or entry level engineers, what do you intentionally focus on beyond that technical skill development?
So I know sometimes as you progress along in your career, people sometimes forget how it is to be that entry level, that green engineer coming in. And like, I think what I really want to focus on is remembering that time, like remembering that all the types of expectations that I wish someone would have told me from the get go. And like, I think the first thing I focus on and acknowledge is like, there's different generational experiences
Yeah.
at this point. Like, the newer generations, they have so much information, like, ready, like, uh, resources available, information out there, but there's some things still that I think we don't always verbalize,
Yeah.
and, like, one of the big things is, like, workload expectations, like, just kind of our industry is cyclical, like, we have busy periods and less busy periods, but kind of, like, managing their expectations on what it is when you enter the field, like, sometimes, the burnout is a big concern, and, you know, how do we balance that and anticipate that and kind of be ready to kind of talk to those like tough conversations or tough experiences that someone might experience. Another big thing that I love to focus on is communication.
Mm,
Like that,
yeah. They don't teach you enough
that
about that in school.
take tone. I
Yeah.
think you take one comm class and you're like, you do a presentation, you're like, this is communication, right?
Yeah.
And like, um, having entry level folks kind of really focus on engagement and like how open do you need to be, like, kind of ask those questions and be curious. And like, I think like reaching out to folks and kind of having that back and forth communication is something that I encourage a lot. And kind of the as it relates to communication, kind of being aware of like work styles
Yeah, good
and
point. Yeah.
like sometimes like you go in and you're like, oh wait, this person, I need to factor in their work style might be different than my work style and like, varying personalities and those interactions and like how do you coalesce with each other and be flexible. And I think having that career awareness early and like learning some of the skills like managing up or like communication check-ins, like how often do you do that? And like I think that's stuff that sometimes you don't experience until you experience it. And, kind of getting that, awareness early, I think is super key. And then as it ties into communication, I think I touched on it before, was just like to me the factor of confidence was like invaluable. Like, is that the right word? Invaluable. Super valuable.
Yeah, that works. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's and you can't teach someone, like you can't just like, hey, be confident. Like
Right.
I think that's a skill that you build yourself,
Yeah.
but kind of having junior engineers, like, have someone feel like they're advocating for you and feel comfortable to be open and, like, speak up. I think that's what I wanna focus on, make sure that they're kind of moving from, like, "Okay, like, what do I do next?" to, "Okay, this is my recommendation, and this is my justification for it," so that you have that engineering mindset, you feel comfortable, and you feel confident yourself that you're like, "Hey, this is I feel good with this," so
Yeah, no, it's kind of focusing on what a lot of people call those soft skills, but in all reality, those soft skills are the most critical skills that you can do beyond the technical, right? I mean, the technical obviously is the backbone of everything that we do, and you mentioned that early on. But those called soft skills are really the critical piece that takes you from where you're at as an entry level engineer and as you continue to grow in your career. For engineers who don't have a formal mentorship program in their firm, what are some practical steps that they can take to seek that meaningful guidance?
I think the first thing you have to do is kind of like be open to what you're seeking and kind of find that mentor or potential mentor. Communicate your needs and see if that mentor is willing to be that person for you. There's so many professional organizations out there that offer
Yeah.
potential mentorship opportunities, like avenues to make connections. And it's not even just like in your company, right, that you're seeking a mentor. You can seek them from outside of your company in different industries, different aspects, whether client side, vendor side, contractor side, and like you can get involved with like committees, attend conferences. I've met a bunch of people in different levels of experience that you connect with, and obviously with LinkedIn now you can just like
Yeah.
easily connect. But I think that's the key thing. Like Parametrix has a mentorship program, which is awesome, and like those are some of the things that I think finding leaders that you can work with or peer groups for your growth and development, that's kind of like what you wanna make out of it.
From a firm leadership perspective, what can organizations do to foster an organic culture of mentorship?
I think the first thing is creating that space to allow for, like, opportunity to grow so that you can make connections and you can, um, have different disciplines, different groups, different regions, depending on how big the firm is, right? Different levels to connect, to form these, like, bonds that are organic, that are, like, natural and not like forced. And like I think when a company has like this culture of collaboration, which I love it, like it really like empowers the employee to feel comfortable to make connections and like so that you can feel comfort in like reaching out with each other. And I think that that culture of collaboration just lets you know that you're not like, and this is the same thing I feel from the beginning, like you're not alone.
Yeah.
There are other people like right outside of your cubicle wall, like that are there, going through that. And like I think if the firm kind of prioritizes these meaningful connections between the employees, like whether it's like, having like career session growth or like technical opportunities, like it kind of just happens naturally where people just seek knowledge with each other and share experiences and like share progress together, that it becomes this organic um thing. So I think just having that space would be the this jump off.
Sorry, you had a lot of great things to say about mentorship, and I love it. And thank you so much. To wrap things up, we're going to transition into our civil engineering hot seat, where I'll ask her a rapid round of questions that will give you a glimpse into the daily habits, influences, and insights that have helped shape her career. Let's jump into it.
In the AEC industry, skilled project managers are the backbone of success. EMI's AEC PM certification offers tailored training, ongoing support, and exclusive access to premium content that keeps your team sharp and effective. From foundational training to advanced leadership tools, set your team apart with certified growth. Learn more at aecpm.com. That's aecpm.com.
Now it's time for our CE hot seat segment of the week with Soraya Azahari, PE. All right, Soraya, you're officially in the civil engineering hot seat. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I guess.
Don't be afraid. You're good. All right, Soraya, do you have any specific rituals that you practice every day? For example, do you have a specific morning ritual or lunchtime ritual, things that you do daily that contribute to you being a successful professional?
I think first thing, the millennial in me is coffee, like
Yes. But
but
first,
first.
coffee. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's a part of my morning ritual. And I think before you tackle the day, just kind of like having that like breathing exercise just before you open up the Outlook email with a bunch of things already in your inbox, but just like centering yourself. And then during lunch, I make it a point to step away, even, touch grass, right? Even if it's for like 15-20 minutes, like just looking at something green, looking at something other than your screen. Um, every day. That's kind of like what I need to do. So I think that's part of my just like ritual for my day to day.
Thinking back on your managers of the past, picture your favorite manager or even managers. What was it that made them your favorite?
My favorite manager was he was my technical mentor, and um he just kind of taught you everything you needed, kind of prepared you, had those real talks, and just kind of like just gave you that dose of reality. And I just loved that, he was just kind of very honest and straight up
Hmm.
about what to expect. And I versus sometimes you don't need all the fluff. Sometimes you just need like that hard knocks of this is what's gonna happen. So I really liked that.
I've got one final question for you, and that is the critical civil engineering career elevator advice question. It's a mouthful, but if you got into an elevator with a civil engineering student, let's say at the University of Delaware, where we both went, and had about 30 to 40 seconds with them, what career advice would you share with them?
I would say that, you know, to continue learning like everything, even if you don't know something, kind of like reach in, learn as much as you can about it and kind of have a good grasp at that and kind of be open to like for civil engineering, there's so many aspects of it that, don't just get locked in on one thing and just realize there's potential in so many parts of it. Because I didn't think I was going to be a water wastewater engineer, and this is where I'm at right now. But um, that you're not just like stuck on just one discipline, and that is what defines you.
Soraya, thank you so much for joining me today. Where can our listeners connect with you?
On my LinkedIn.
Okay. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please remember you can find the show notes for this episode at civilengineeringpodcast.com. There you'll find the summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during the episode. Until next time, I wish you the best in all your civil engineering endeavors.